Hey everybody, it's Mike here from the WeWrench shop and welcome to episode 10. So we're here at the back of the car, guys. We got the ABS wheel speed sensors disconnected. The only thing left to freeing the entire rear end from the body is the parking brake cable. So what we're going to do is we are going to go through that and I will show you how to disconnect it. This thick cable that the light is on, that is the parking brake cable. It goes to the underside of the car and it leads to here. It's attached to the control arm and then it leads into the parking brake cable, goes right into the hub. Right there. I know it's really difficult to see and I apologize. So the first thing that we want to do is get the caliper out of here, and then we want to take the rotor off, and then behind the rotor this vehicle has a parking brake actuation system that resembles sort of a drum brake. There's like a drum inside of the rotor and the parking brake pads expand outwards and grip the rotor on the inside, and that's how the parking brake system works. But it's pulled by the cable which is attached to the parking brake lever. So before you do this you want to disengage the parking brake, obviously. So this is the anti-rattle clip. That's how that comes off. The next step to getting the caliper off is you want to pull these two dust seals. Behind these dust seals there's a 7mm Allen screw, and these are actually the caliper slide bolts. So when you undo these, the caliper will come off this way. I like to take them off from here. Just wiggle the caliper and it will come off. This is the brake pad wear sensor wire, by the way. So what you can do, you swing the caliper out of the way, it'll sit up here. You don't ever want to let those hang, by the way. Very bad practice. It's a pretty good view here from the undercarriage. So with the caliper off, the next thing that you want to do is undo these two bolts, and these will separate the caliper bracket from the knuckle. These bolts are pretty high torque, so if you don't have leverage, they can be kind of tough. This one actually started to round off a little bit, as you can see. Oop, there we go. Caliper bracket off, bolts off. Now while we are under here, I need to show you something. This is what holds the e-brake cable to the control arm. That is not plastic, that is metal. So what you have to do is get a set of pliers and bend this out. Do not take a screwdriver or any kind of other tool and start prying and trying to loosen that way, because you risk damaging the cable. So there's this one, and then there is another point that you have to bend right close to the hub on the control arm. It's kind of impossible to see from this angle, but you have to do the same at this point right over here. So let's do this one first. There we go. See that? That is now free. Next step is to get the rotor off. BMWs have this rotor retaining bolt. Now, a good hint for this is that if you know this bolt has not been taken out in a while, make sure, it's 5mm Allen, by the way, make sure your socket is firmly planted in there. It's okay to take a hammer and tap on it a little bit, because they have a tendency of stripping. I got lucky there. With the retaining bolt out, give it a couple, well, don't even need to. was going to give it a couple whacks with the hammer. But once again, it's my lucky day. Maybe I should go buy a lottery ticket. So this is what the parking brake assembly looks like in an E34. These are the shoes that expand outwards against that drum that's on the inside of the rotor. And you have the retractor springs. These just turn and these will release the shoes from the backing plate. And then this assembly in here is attached to the parking brake cable. And when you pull the cable, what happens is it just kind of spreads this outwards like that. That's the way I can describe it. 5mm Allen on the retainers. You just kind of have to give it like a quarter of a turn. Okay. And then that pops out of there. That's what that looks like. And we're going to do the same thing on the bottom one. There's one right over here. Don't even need a ratchet. Okay. And once you have these retainers out, what you need to do is free them from the springs. You can take a tool like this. Okay. Now that spring is undone. And hook this spring, that will come off, this will come off. So this is the assembly that spreads when the parking cable is pulled. So to get this cable out of here, you don't have to take the hub off, you don't have to take the backing plate off. So in order to free up this cable, what you have to do is you have to swing this part out of the way. This part of the actuator is stationary. This is the part that moves right here. So in order to access the cable, what you have to do is you have to swing it out of the way. What you do is you push. If you push inwards, this assembly will move. It'll move out. See that? Okay. Now with this out, this pin is what holds the cable to the actuator. And be sure you don't lose the pin. It should just push out. There we go. Yep. That's what that looks like when it's free. And here is the cable. This right here is the other spot where the parking brake cable is fastened. It has just a metal bracket. Try not to pry because you have your brake line and your ABS and your brake pad wear sensor here. I'm just going to go under there and I'm going to just grab it with the pliers like I did with the other one and loosen it. And that is what it looks like bent, or free rather. See that? Now at this point, what you want to do is you want to go, this is hard to see, you want to go straight in there with a very small punch or even a flathead screwdriver and just tap, and you will be able to free the cable from that housing. There's nothing else attaching it. I'm going to go in there with this punch and get this cable out of here. Okay. And that's it. It's out. So now what I want to do is I want to detach the ABS wheel speed sensor harness in the front. Kind of works the same way in the back. You have this yellow plug here. There's a grommet that passes through to the fender. I'm going to push that through. The other ABS wheel speed sensor plug is underneath the coolant reservoir here. It's a little difficult to access, so I'm just going to pull the reservoir. We got a plug, and it looks like a 10 millimeter here. Again, very hard to see this one. It's way down in there. That is the plug. That's it right there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to unplug it. Got it. After messing with it a little bit, it actually just twists out of there. We got the ABS sensor out. That's free. Now what we want to do is we want to undo the brake line at this junction here. It's an 11 millimeter flare nut and then a 14 on the other side to counter hold. That is on there. That is not coming off. That is not coming off without a fight. It's all got to be replaced. Other side of the car, it's more of the same. We freed up the ABS sensor here. Pull this down so you can see it a little bit better. We have the pad wear sensor here. These ever jam you up, just hit them with a little penetrating lube. That usually helps. Same thing with these. This one's being stubborn. For that pad wear sensor, it was connected here. The male and the female. You have to pull that apart, and you have to. This end will stay with the caliper, and then this end will get detached from the strut. Like that. All right, next thing is to undo the brake line on this side. Brake line is now free. Next thing that we're going to do is we are going to unscrew the transmission mount from the body. And we need to do that because we have to get above the transmission to disconnect the shift lever mechanism, and then there's a plug for the reverse light switch. I stuffed a piece of metal in between the transmission and the subframe, so hopefully we'll be okay here. Okay. Look at that, huh? Wow. Up there is the reverse light switch. And that just comes straight out like that. And we have to undo the wiring harness from the trans. There's a clip right there. So now we want to work on the shift lever. There's a retainer clip here. What you got to do is you got to get this off. I'm probably going to end up breaking this, yep, because it's nice and rusty. It's breaking off just with my finger. So I'm still wrestling with trying to get this shift mechanism detached from the transmission so we can drop it. I have a pole jack underneath the transmission now. I thought maybe that it was sagging and kind of jamming up the works. But, you know, I wrestled with that assembly a little bit more. It doesn't seem to be moving. There is this, though. You see where that sits into, that bushing there? So that is fastened up here with that 13 millimeter bolt. So I'm going to try undoing that, and maybe it'll coerce it a little bit. Okay. So what I did was, there was another way to do this. This side of the rod goes into the transmission. So what I did was I just got in there with a long screwdriver and tapped on it, and that came out. It has the same style clip as this side. Pretty much the same setup, but this will just not come out. That is totally seized. So I detached it from the transmission side. So now that that's free, I gotta look further. Now for this next part, there's this clip. It is kind of dead center in the shot that has to be unhooked on top of the trans to release that other part of the shift mechanism. So you gotta go all the way in there and just pop that up. Try and do this while I'm recording. If the shot stinks, then I apologize. Okay, I really hope you can see that pin. Jesus. That's what holds this to the trans. Now it's totally free. Trying to do that when filming was a real cluster, guys, and I apologize, but this is what that pin looks like that attaches that thicker part of the shift mechanism to the trans. You have to undo this clip, and then this pulls straight out, and that's what releases it. All right, clutch slave cylinder is going to be the last piece of the puzzle that connects the transmission to the chassis. Then, that's what the slave cylinder looks like. Thank you everybody so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you found it informative or entertaining, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment. Check us out at TikTok at WeWrench. Check us out on Instagram at WeWrench Official, and I will see you guys next time.